Hey everybody, Jeff Hansen. We're back talking BYU football once again. 9-0. What more can you say? Feels great. You beat Utah. Feels fantastic. Everything feels good. Let's talk about it. Let's get into the good stuff. We're about 24 hours removed from BYU's win over Utah, 22-21. Last second field goal. Will Ferrin, my dog. He's got some Sam Cassell in him with that clutch field goal to win the game. And really, if you haven't heard Kelly Papinga talking about asking Ferrin, hey, where do you want this kick? What was his answer? Doesn't matter, coach. I'll make it. Love it. You love that kind of confidence. Will Ferrin, he's the player of the game. Look, he had 3 field goals. He had the game winner. He also had that tackle against Smith Snowden on that long kickoff return. Will Ferrin was everywhere. So fantastic game from Will Ferrin. So let's get into it. Let's just talk about some of the things that I saw, some of my takeaways in this game. And first and foremost, how can we not talk about Mark Harlan and the way he fell apart after this game? Okay, now, like I say, 24 hours or so removed from the win. We know that Harlan has been fined by the Big 12. He said in his little statement, his little rant in this press conference, that he was going to call the commissioner. I would have loved to hear how that call went, because given how swiftly a fine was levied towards Harlan and then how quickly he backtracked all of those comments and how Utah's so proud to be in the Big 12 now, that was pretty clearly not the conversation that Harlan thought he was going to have with the commissioner when he said he was going to make those comments. But I got more thoughts on this. Look, the post-game presser, the comments were stupid, and those are what's going to live in infamy now. That's just part of the rivalry. I think if you ask Max Hall, he'd probably like to have some of his post-game press conference comments back from 2009 too. Look, emotions fly high in press conference, and sometimes you say things that maybe you shouldn't say, maybe a little bit out of character. Maybe they're perfectly in character, but you just shouldn't say them. That happens. So while I think it was very dumb and it was a little embarrassing for Utah what Harlan said, I'm not going to hold that against him too much. I can at least conceptually wrap my head around emotions flying high when somebody's asking you questions. What I cannot wrap my head around is Harlan trotting out onto the field in the middle of the final play of the game so that he could yell at a ref. If you missed that somehow, I don't know how you could. That last unsportsmanlike penalty that was flagged and given to Utah at the end of the game, that was on Harlan. Mark Harlan, the athletic director, was on the field in the middle of that kickoff return. In my heart of hearts, I sort of wish that Utah would have figured out a way to return that for a touchdown and get Rice Eccles all going crazy, and then watch Harlan have to walk it back when the play got called back because he was on the field in the middle of the game. You expect your players to keep their emotions in check. Something that gets talked about all the time. Anytime there's a roughing the passer or some sort of a late hit out of bounds, oh, you got to keep your emotions. Even in a rivalry game, players got to keep their emotions. Head coaches, they're scrutinized for everything. Assistant coaches, scrutinized for everything. But they can't just go ballistic on the sideline and forget where they are in the middle of the game. If they do, they get fined, they get fired, they get lambasted by social media. It's a whole thing. An athletic director is supposed to be the biggest adult in the athletic room. And that's the guy who completely lost control and wandered onto the field in the middle of a play. That is embarrassing for Utah. Absolutely embarrassing. I think the Big 12 should be embarrassed. A $40,000 fine is the biggest fine that I have seen a conference give an athletic director. I think Mac Rhodes got one for criticizing officials. The Baylor AD, I think his was $25,000. 40 is a steep fine. I think Utah should fine him too. I think there should be something else, because what are you sending? I mean, that's more of a message to the fans, to the coaches that report up through Mark Harlan, to the players in that program, that if that guy can lose his mind, that guy can lose control, why do any of the rest of us have to keep our emotions in check? I thought that was embarrassing. We can talk about the defensive holding call all day long, and here's my take on it. It was flagged. Doesn't really matter if it was a good call or a bad call. Look, Kai Nakua got flagged for targeting in 2016. I looked at it. I didn't think it was targeting. BYU fans have talked about that call since 2016. Doesn't really change anything, right? That was a flag. It was a penalty. It was a big impact in the game. And all that BYU fans have had to do for 8 years, live with it. There are no other choices. 2010, Brandon Bradley gets an interception. I think this is like a game-sealing interception, but he fumbles it. His knees sure look down on replay. But the refs did not give BYU the call. It went Utah's way. What do? You live with it. So Utah fans are going to complain and they're going to whine, and that's expected because, look, BYU fans, we've whined about those calls too. We've whined about that Nakua targeting call, and we've whined about that Brandon Bradley fumble call. We'll never stop whining about those calls. But if you're a BYU fan, I don't think we don't have to prove anything anymore. I have seen, it's felt like we're watching Zapruder films, Kennedy assassination, grainy videos from cell phones, clear out on a grassy knoll inside the stadium, trying to figure out, oh, yep, this is holding, it doesn't matter. BYU fans, it went our way for a change. That doesn't happen very often in this rivalry game. We don't have to prove anything to anybody. So that's my take. The refs called it. Great. Stop BYU on the next play if you're a Utah fan, right? Look, even after that holding, I get it. That sucks. 4th down, automatic first down. That's a bummer if you're a Utah fan. BYU still had to go 80 yards. You know, they still were deep in their own territory. Make a stop. Live with it. It's what BYU fans have had to do since 2010. So if BYU fans had to do it in 2016, live with it. It's the way I see it. Look, this game, man, Jake Retzlaff. I want to talk about Jake Retzlaff. This was not his best game. I think we can all admit that. 15 of 33. That's like a 45% passing completion. That's not great. 15 of 33. He did that weird thing where he has had now, I think it's 5 games in a row where he has thrown between 218 and 228 yards. Never less, never more, within that 10-yard window for 5 straight games. I think it's weird, but he did it again. I think he threw for 219 yesterday. There's something about Jake Retzlaff that we've really got to start talking about more. We first saw it against SMU. He played terribly against SMU, had some interceptions, had a fumble, wasn't a great game. But when BYU got the ball in a tie game with 4 minutes left in the 4th quarter, what did Jake Retzlaff do? He led BYU down the field and set up a game-winning field goal for Will Ferrin. When BYU got the ball with a minute and whatever it was left against Oklahoma State and they needed a touchdown, what did Jake Retzlaff do? He led BYU down the field in a minute and got into the end zone to win that game. When BYU is backed up deep inside their own territory and they're down by 2 on the road against Utah, what does Jake Retzlaff do? He guides BYU down the field and sets up a game-winning field goal for Will Ferrin. This is clutch, guys. Jake Retzlaff is clutch. He did not play great. He's got some balls that were batted at the line of scrimmage. That's a new problem we haven't seen from Jake. He's going to have to figure that out. He had a couple of missed throws that I think he'd like to have back. He got sacked, held onto the ball a little bit. That's a good Utah defense. These things are going to happen. It wasn't Jake's best game. But when BYU needed him most, boy, did he ever step up and play exceptionally well. He is so good in the clutch. That's what made guys like Tom Brady so great, right? Tom Brady, if he got the ball with a chance to win and 2 minutes were left on the clock, you expected Tom Brady to lead the Patriots down and get into the end zone and win the game. 2 minutes was always way too long for Tom Brady. I think we're there, guys. I think we're there with Jake Retzlaff. He's not Tom Brady. That's not what I'm suggesting. But in terms of that clutch gene that he is just able to deliver in big moments, he's proven it 3 times. He's proven it twice on the road against a good Utah team, rivalry, hostile environment, all that stuff, against an SMU team who's proving to be very good, might be inside the college football playoff rankings this week. Jake Retzlaff's really good, guys. He's playing really, really good. I'm a little nervous going forward for the offensive line. I don't know what Braden Kime's injury is, something with his leg. I think everybody saw it. He got rolled up on. That did not look good. I have not heard any confirmation of whether he's done for the year. Is he done for the week? Is he going to be back? I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that. But, boy, that didn't look good. And if he's out, that's a big blow. Isaiah Jatta, the Colorado transfer, he's got a lot of talent, and he came into the game and played really, really well, but he only played a handful of snaps. It's different. He's going to be tested the rest of the way, these last 3 games, especially against Kansas. They're going to try to get after Jake and make something happen in the backfield, force some turnovers. That's just what Lance Leipold likes to do. So, going to have to watch out for that. Austin Leosa, he left the game. He did come back. What's his status? He's been dealing with nagging injuries all year long. Sonny Mocassini's done the same thing. So I'm a little bit nervous about the health of the offensive line. So far, the backups have stepped up and played really well, but I'm a little bit nervous, anxious to see how that pans out. Last thing that I really want to talk about is the defense, because it felt in the first half that the defense was not playing very well, and they weren't, right? Utah, an anemic offense, they did score 21 second quarter points. Jay Hill is going to have some benefit this week that he hasn't had since before the Oklahoma State game. He will get to prepare for a quarterback that he knows will be starting, and he will have available film on. You think about this, guys. For 3 straight games, Jay Hill has either not known who the starting quarterback is going to be or not had more than a few quarters worth of game film to work off of. He's had to guess whether it was Garrett Rangel or Alan Bowman or Zane Flores at Oklahoma State. He had to prepare for all 3. We knew that it would be Ja'Curry Brown for UCF when BYU went down to Orlando, but he'd only played really 1 full game, and he didn't throw the ball. So what's Jay Hill supposed to work off of? He's got 1 game's worth of film to develop his entire game plan. Coming into this week, was it going to be Isaac Wilson? Was it going to be Brandon Rose? If it was Brandon Rose, what do you prepare for? You've only seen him for a few quarters in his college career. That's tough to do. And in the first half, Brandon Rose clearly surprised BYU. He just did. I think we can say that honestly. In the second half, Jay Hill had at least 1 half of seeing him up close. He made some adjustments, and that BYU defense absolutely locked down Brandon Rose and the Utah offense in the second half. They gained 79 yards in the second half. Jay Hill, for the first time in 3 games, knows who the quarterback is going to be for Kansas. He's not only got firsthand experience having played against him live, but he's got years worth of film. Jalen Daniels is still very good. That rushing attack for Kansas is very good. That's a really stout offensive line. But Jay Hill gets to have some variables that aren't so unknown. There's a few more pieces in this equation that are known factors for Jay Hill. That hasn't happened in a long time. I'm really excited to see what Jay Hill does. If you really look at it, he's played really great. I guess his units have played, his defense has played really great when he's had a game plan, when he's known who the quarterback is. But even going back to that Baylor game, it was Sawyer Robertson that he came in, and that was a little different, right? Daquan Finn had been leading the Baylor offense, and it's a backup quarterback. That's tougher to do. He's got years worth of film on Jalen Daniels. Really excited to see the game plan he puts together this week. Going into the college football playoff rankings, BYU checked in at 9 last week. I was disappointed in 9. It's what I've talked about on this channel, and I was flooded with comments of it doesn't matter. Just BYU just got to win. You control your own destiny. Yeah, I get it. That's true. But if BYU has 1 loss, that scares me. This narrative scares me. I didn't like number 9. I think BYU climbs as high as maybe 6, but probably 7 this week. That's better. I just hope that BYU can get high enough that they have a 1-loss buffer. Look, win and you're in, and that doesn't matter. But I do hope that they can build that buffer in and keep climbing in the rankings. Miami losing was great. BYU needs a little bit of help, I think, to continue to climb. And they've got to make some statement wins. A 1-point win on the road at Utah, a 4-5 Utah team. That's not going to impress any national analysts, but anybody who knows anything about the Holy War and about this rivalry game knows that that game was going to be close no matter what the spread was, no matter who was good, who was bad. That game was always going to be close. So I think that should be an impressive enough win for the committee. There's some guys who have played in the same conferences as BYU, some ADs that have played in the same conferences as BYU that are sitting on the selection committee. They should know what that rivalry game looks like between BYU and Utah. I hope that BYU gets rewarded for that win. Look, BYU's magical season keeps going, 9-0. Saturday night, 8:15, another late kick. It's going to be cold. It's on ESPN. Another big test for BYU when they take on Kansas. Really excited about the win, though. Thank you, guys. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. Like the video. Really helps me out a lot. We're fueling algorithms. That's what we do around here. Appreciate you guys. Until next time, give them hell. Go Cougs.